Well, one thing I learned by watching the town hall with Andy Cohen and the cast of And Just Like That is that they got very, very triggered by a column written by Meghan McCain in the Daily Mail. I'm Megan Fox with pjmedia.com. I'm a columnist. I write there every day. You can find my columns there. And today I'm going to read to you from the Daily Mail from Meghan McCain's article that got them so upset. And the reason why I think I say that they were triggered is because Andy Cohen asked them, he referenced this article, which I had not read until he brought it up, that there was a lot of, the criticism was that there was forced wokeness, and could they answer that question? And Cynthia Nixon, as we all saw, tripped over herself trying to answer it, but failed miserably, because what they did was instead blame the audience for being racist somehow and not ready for what they were putting out there. But let's read this article that was so triggering to them. It's called And Just Like That, Sex and the City Died of Wokeness. Meghan McCain on how the humorless reboot of a show she used to love has sacrificed its sense of fun to the repressive times in which we live. By the way, I'm not a huge fan of Meghan McCain's. She's one of the, well, I won't get into it. I'm just saying I'm not a huge fan, but I did really like this article that she wrote. I thought it was really good. So I'm going to give her the credit for writing it. Let's get to it, shall we? One of the things that made The Golden Girls an ageless classic television show is that it showcased a group of women living together and talking about basically anything and everything, from sex and relationships to life and family. But most importantly, they were having lots of fun, and as a result, the audience had a lot of fun along with them. If only that were the case with the misguided woke reboot of Sex and the City. Let me preface what I'm about to say next with this. I am very sad to feel this way about the revival, aptly named And Just Like That. Yeah, me too. Me too, Megan. Me too. I feel that way too. Very sad. I'm an old millennial, 37 years to be exact. The original HBO show hit its height of fame, popularity, and cultural relevance as I was coming into my formative years and during my time at Columbia University in New York City. I cannot fully express what it was like to have a show about women, friendships, relationships, navigating singledom in modern America, and yes, sex on the air at that time in my life. This show was a true cultural phenomenon, and for many reasons we should be forever grateful for the barriers that it broke regarding open conversations about women and sexuality. It encapsulated the excesses of the time and the pre-woke freedom before the 2008 financial crisis. Any reboot of this cultural touchstone would face exceedingly high expectations, but I didn't anticipate being left simultaneously disappointed and depressed after watching the first 2 episodes. Oh my God, I feel ya, honey. I feel ya. For a start, so much of the original show, while groundbreaking at the time, hasn't aged well in the way that many other shows of the era have. Now, I disagree with her on that. I think it absolutely has aged well. I rewatched it and I loved it. Moving on. I could watch The Sopranos over and over again and have few critiques for the series. But so many of the promises of Sex and the City turned out to be completely fictional and lacking any relation to reality. The show depicted its main character, Carrie Bradshaw, as a columnist living in a great Manhattan apartment, able to afford a closet full of designer clothes and shoes. She also finds the idea of marriage and children repulsive, to put it mildly. Now, I don't think all television has to reflect life perfectly, but I think for a certain generation of women, the show made some false promises about sex and intimacy that now seem dated and not reflective of what actual real life is like, both in New York City and out of it. As I have gotten older, I've cringed at the messaging to so many young women and wished for more realism and nuance when it came to intimacy and relationships with men. But I digress. Back to the reboot. Sarah Jessica Parker is an iconic actress and is still wonderful, embodying the character of Carrie. On that, I disagree with her. I don't think she brought Carrie back at all. I don't know who this person is that's SJP is portraying, but it isn't Carrie Bradshaw. But that's just my opinion. Moving on. The problem with the new series is the clumsy attempt to reformat the show into the woke and puritanical times we are living in. I love the word choice puritanical there. It's very, very true. These are the new, like I call them, the new church ladies, the new fundamentalists. It's just that the religion they're pushing is this critical race theory, etc. Moving on. For example, Carrie now plays the part of the cisgender woman on a podcast with younger co-hosts. One of them is, of course, queer and non-binary, because it's so boring and unevolved to be a straight white woman. I don't know who to blame, the writers of the show or this particularly stupid and repressive time we are living in. The first time I ever heard about anal sex or a vibrator was on this show. Now entire plot lines are dedicated to microaggressions. It's so true. Miranda, played by Cynthia Nixon, comes off as an inadvertently racist and old when she expresses shock over the hairstyle of her college professor. When she tries to clean up her mess, it gets worse. A law professor can't have hair like mine? Why is that? Asks the self-righteous educator. Miranda starts babbling. My comment had nothing whatsoever to do with being a black hairstyle. I knew you were black when I signed up for this class. That was important to me, she rambles as the camera pans across the shocked faces of the other students. You signed up for this class because I'm black? Responds the professor in a cruel hypothetical. It gets more cringy from there, but the point is Miranda is hopeless. It's as if the show is going out of its way to say every Generation Xer from Sex and the City's past is problematic and needs modern redeeming. And Just Like That also introduces some new faces, just like that. The supporting cast exhibits commendable racial and identity diversity, but we don't learn much about their characters. It's almost as if they were written into the script to satisfy the PC censors. You think? There is a way to execute important cultural messages without it feeling like it's being force fed, and this show, unfortunately, really, really fails at that. It is wokeness, superficially shoved down your throat to make a point about wealthy white liberal women evolving into a political climate of 2021. Like so much of the fallacy I find in modern liberalism in major cities, these characters seem to encompass the absurdity of some progressive woke white women. I couldn't sum it up even better than the New York Times review, which noted that the whole production feels as if it speed read How to Be an Anti-Racist in June of 2020. Above all else, and most importantly, it's not fun at all, not even a little bit. Not even the fashion, which comes across more like a costume party than the fun frivolity of the original show. It is morose, and the sudden death of Mr. Big on a peleton in the first episode, followed by his funeral, is extremely depressing and confusing. The only way it makes sense, and I can only speculate, is that it was written into the script to kill off anything left of the original that we loved, so we can move fully on to this new chapter of modern misery. It's so true. So miserable, which will be a pity because the only reason I'm sitting here writing this or choosing to watch the show was because of how much I loved the original. The show is also deeply hurt by the absence of Kim Cattrall as Samantha Jones, who was always my favorite character on the show. I think she was everybody's favorite. I think that's what we're finding out is that Samantha was actually everyone's favorite. I actually didn't know she was my favorite until she was gone, and then I realized it. Moving on. I believe she could have brought some of the levity that is missing, and dare I say, even a few jokes, of which there were very few in the first two episodes. And there was also no sex whatsoever, except for a story about Miranda's teenage son and his girlfriend, which is not something I think anyone wants to see or hear about. It is awkward, clumsy, and just gross to hear a mother joke her child's sex life over brunch. Another spoiler alert, Miranda steps barefoot on her son's used condom. I'm not big on reboots in general, and I'm always grateful for shows like Seinfeld, which have resisted the urge of a giant paycheck to come back. Some things are really meant to be cultural moments in time and to stay there. We are living in one of the most repressive and anti-free speech movements in modern times. There is a palpable paranoia in our art and comedy. Shows and actors, with a few glaring exceptions like Dave Chappelle, are clearly concerned about angering the wrong people, being politically incorrect, or not sufficiently progressive. This is not a way to create fun or impactful entertainment. Wokeness kills everything, and I'm disappointed to tell you that And Just Like That is another victim of Hollywood trying to placate a specific audience and not the original one, which was what made it a hit in the first place. Very good, Meghan McCain. Very good. I could not have said it better myself. Those last 2 paragraphs in particular are incredible. And I'm so glad she wrote it. And I'm glad they read it. And they deserve to hear every word of it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you like this article? Did you think that she was right on? Personally, I think it was perfect. Well done, Meghan. All right, guys, like and subscribe, and I'll be back later.